Now let's talk about money.
Okay.
If I am a client or a person, an applicant to Harvard Kennedy School, and I feel unsure about financing my education, let's go ahead and just for the sake of the scenario, this is a married, um, international student with a child. So this is going to be a big life change, international move, and I'm not sure how I'm going to finance my education. I'm not even sure if I even have much access to loans. What advice would you give for me?
Well, the first advice I would give is to get in touch with Kaneisha at the Art of Applying because she has a record of doing a good job. It's incredibly important to look under every stone everywhere to see where you can find some money. Spend a tremendous amount of time on the websites, on the financial aid websites of the schools that you're applying to, and uncover whatever you can uncover because nobody's going to come looking for you. Well, somebody might come looking for you, but there are wonderful, wonderful scholarships. It's a huge expense to go to graduate school. And if you're going to come and not have enough money, that is going to have a terrific impact on what you get out of the school. Because in the time that you should spend studying and networking, you're going to be spending worrying. So I couldn't advise more strongly that look everywhere for money and talk to Kaneisha or one of the consultants about what to do about that.
And when Judy says come speak to Kaneisha or the consultants, people are like, well, what are they gonna do? And the reason why she's saying that is because unlike a lot of my highly esteemed colleagues in the admissions consulting industry, I focus a ton on fellowships. It is very important to me that our clients, our listeners, our subscribers, whether you pay me any money or not, that the people get the information that they need in order to apply to as many fellowships as they can in an effective way so they can get the fellowship and leave school with as little student loan debt as possible. Now, I was a clueless, very ambitious, very smart, but quite clueless about money 21-year-old, 22-year, I guess I was 23 when I signed the paperwork accepting a lot of student loan debt. And I was actually a semifinalist for a full scholarship to the Kennedy School. Didn't end up working out. And so I paid for it almost completely with student loans. And I ended up between Harvard Business School and Harvard Kennedy School being there for 3 years, also spending wantonly and just not knowing the value of money. I ended up with over $130,000 of student loans. And I do not recommend that to anyone in the entire world unless you are a prince. But if you're a prince, you did not need the loans in the first place. And my goal is to pay them off very aggressively, and that's going well now, 5 years out. But I actually have a guideline for people. How much student loans should they take out? And my guideline, Kaneisha's guideline for how much student loans you should take out is take out no more than 1 year worth of salary that you will make in your first job out of your dream school. So if you're going to college and you're studying art, it is very likely you're not going to come out and be rich and famous immediately. So don't take on more than, say, $30,000 in student loans. If you're going to the Kennedy School and you really in your heart know that you want to work in public service and that you want to pursue, not necessarily be in the private sector or be pushed into the private sector, I would not recommend taking on more than, I'd say, $50,000 in student loans so that you can feel free to take whatever job you like. Understand that there are all kinds of awesome programs at Harvard and other schools for people who go and work in public service jobs. There's loan forgiveness, all types of things like that. But those programs do not last forever. Those programs are not promised to you. You have to apply for them, and there are limits on those. And also, loan forgiveness, that's nice, but it's even nicer to not have the loans in the first place. So that's my little interstitial piece of advice from Kaneisha on student loans.
Let me add to that the schools of public policy, you can make a terrific contribution to the world from the private sector.
Yeah.
But you generally are coming to a school of public policy because you want to do good in the public sector or the nonprofit sector. And so you need to know right from the beginning that you are going to not be making a huge salary. And some students end up compromising and taking a job in the private sector that they really would prefer not to. And I remember from so long ago, a student who did that And then he became used to living on a private sector salary, and then it was even harder for him to give that up. So your recommendation on guidelines to loaning, it's right on, in my opinion. So
Thank
thank you.
you for sharing that advice and that story. I saw it happen a lot. So I completely agree. I think that I have never seen such a motivated, optimistic, but like realistically optimistic group of people about changing the world than Harvard Kennedy School students who have just arrived on campus. And it's really inspiring, but it can also be very disheartening when you see a large portion of those students kind of pivot away from their public service, social enterprise, whatever it is, dreams, because they're like, what? I can make 6 figures working at McKinsey. Nothing wrong with working at McKinsey, but if that's not your dream, if that's not why you came to the Kennedy School, don't force yourself into having to take that job unless you really are excited about it and love it by taking on a ton of loans, unnecessary loans or loans you think are necessary. Do everything you can to look for as many fellowships at Harvard Kennedy School, at Harvard, or outside of Harvard that you can bring to Harvard to pay for school as you can.